Let's now bring in a man who knows all about military interventions in other countries. Retired Major General Anthony Atolagbe is a former Chief of Staff of the Ceasefire Commission of the UN mission in Mali and former Director, Peacekeeping Operations at the Defense Headquarters. Welcome to Newsnight.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers.
Thank you for joining us. Now, the whole situation in Niger and ECOWAS intervention and indeed Nigeria's involvement are beginning to change the optics. The optics are not looking good anymore. You know, the twists and turns are different from how it all started. Speak to us about how we can better manage the perception as a bloc.
Thank you very much for your question. I think it's a little early to start perhaps looking at the actions of government and perhaps what is to be done and what is not done. Some people said perhaps our president spoke too early, that perhaps they are giving them 7 days. I need to let the public know there are articles, there are protocols of the AU and of the ECOWAS as well as the UN that provides procedural, steps that needs to be taken before an agreement is reached on any action that is going to be taken by any of the regional organizations. Right. And I think we need to follow this government step by step, more so that you will recall that we have had 3 coups before now. I think there was no other language to use to make people realize how the government of ECOWAS states seriously frown at the actions of these coup plotters than to say we are giving you 7 days. If you go to the article inside the AU protocol, it says there will be negotiation with them for 6 months. That is, you are more or less legitimizing their stay for 6 months. But now, ECOWAS says you have 7 days. From that 7 days, every other procedures will resume, and then they will start all the steps to be taken.
Interesting. Earlier, the president wrote a letter to the Senate intimating the Senate, about the federal government's decision on certain actions in this regard, in this intervention move. Part of the decision of the federal government is the closure of all the land borders with Niger. About 10 states at least are sharing borders with Niger in Nigeria. How do you assess this move?
Okay, these are processes that are laid down also in the ECOWAS protocol, and they take them just one after the other. When you impose sanctions, you put one ahead, you see how effective it is. Mm-hmm. If it's waning in its perhaps efforts to bring the government down, you introduce another one. And this one we have seen with American governments severally, which they usually use when they have any issue with other countries. So I think the imposition of sanctions is quite okay, and within this period, there is the time a lot of mediation, negotiation, and other procedures will be going on. A lot of things going on, you won't even read it in the newspapers.
You mentioned 7 items. Another move is the cutting off of electricity supply to Niger Republic. Some would say that's a little too harsh. What do you make of that?
Okay, my response to that is that most times when decisions are made, the rest of us that are sitting outside, we are not there to know how they arrived at those decisions. Right. So it's good for us to give those decision makers the benefit of the doubt. Number one, the ECOWAS head of state don't just sit and speak. There are a lot of experts that come into such forum. They speak to them, they advise them, bring the implications of this action, the implication of the other action. And in that process, a decision is reached, and then they launch it.
Okay, this one now, the blockage of goods in transit to Niger, especially from Lagos and eastern seaports. What of, because in international diplomacy, what if the country retaliates? How do we handle that?
You can see that the border is closed both ways, both the one going in and the one going out. So there's no coming in, there's no going out. So it's like a kind of, I don't know whether it's reciprocal kind of, but there's no how the one in can go can go out and the one that is there. So,
but you never can tell. Sorry to cut in. You never can tell how the other country would retaliate.
And which are these countries? The country in question?
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about retaliation, you have to think about the capacity of that country, to do whatever kind of retaliation. This is a country that, at a point, we help them to even provide aircraft to launch them into operation in ECOMOG. We provide aircraft to leave the president sometimes. In the past, I don't know, maybe it's still ongoing. So when you talk about capacity, I think we need to give it a deeper thought and see which of them can actually challenge the ECOWAS.
But in a situation like this, yeah, I understand when it's a block, there's strength in numbers. But in a situation like this, you don't take any party in the fight or in the crisis for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens now is that as some of these actions are being taken, there will be reviews going on. They keep reviewing on daily basis. Morning, afternoon, and evening, and see what is the next step we are going to take. What is the result of the people we sent to Niger to go and negotiate? What are the one we took to Algeria to go and negotiate? What are they talking about? Perhaps some people are even talking to some Islamic elders within the country, because these guys, they need to respect those people. They respect them a lot. So we're talking about tradition, perhaps the culture of the people. You have to start thinking about how do we get across to those who are the religious leaders.
Right.
And these people can advise these coup plotters on some steps they need to scale down so that they will be able to perhaps reach some level of agreement with the ECOWAS.
Major General, would you say that Nigeria and indeed ECOWAS started their intervention in this crisis on the wrong footing? Looking back.
I don't know what you mean by wrong footing, because when an action takes place, there has to be a reaction. And the reaction, all this, in March, 15th to 17th of March last year, we were in Ghana to do a reflective forum by AU on constitutional change of government. And they brought in a lot of experts who came to speak, and we discussed on what are the steps that can be taken to make sure that this thing does not. Yeah, there are leadership gaps, there are issues of security, but I think what the ECOWAS head of state are saying is that we have gone beyond coup plotting in Africa. This must stop. And then, some are saying that there are some unconstitutional change of government in other areas. But I think, to the best of my knowledge, they sought the opinion of the people in the country before they allowed them to change the constitution. So if you just said that the constitution is tampered with, some people made it possible for somebody to run 3 terms. So, and they went through the normal parliamentary procedures, even if they say they manipulated people and the rest of it. But to the best of their knowledge, they have done what they think they should do.
Okay, there are fears in some quarters that Niger Republic may begin to ask the Wagner Group for weapons and support, military support. What are your observations?
Wagner, well, what I know is that as they are building up, there are going to be several build-ups in other areas. ECOWAS will not just sit down. African Union is not looking. They are not just looking. So when you talk about perhaps them getting, we have met a lot of mercenaries on the field, okay? And most of them, those level of competencies that you have professional soldiers display on the field, they don't have it. You see the way they just move in convoy as if they are going for a party. No, we don't do that. We move in packets such that we can run into ambushes. We know how to, but the way they move, the way they do things, and that's why you see at any point, any of them can even say, I'm bailing out of this agreement. Can a military professional person say that? No. So as they are building up, the ESF is there, ECOWAS Standby Force. The African Standby Force is there. We have relations with a lot of countries outside Africa, apart from those ones within Africa. So how do you think Wagner can just come and there's going to be something serious that will happen if anybody brings anybody to fight for him?
The ECOWAS Standby Force, not much has been said to us about the ECOWAS Standby Force, and I'm particular about their involvement. How do you, an overview, let's have a short overview of the ECOWAS Standby Force.
Okay, what happened is that the ECOWAS Standby Force is the first of such standby forces in Africa. So all the regions have keyed into it. There's EASF, East African Standby Force. There's Southern African Standby Force, and across the region, like there's IGAD, also they all also have their own. Now, all the 5 of them, bind together and form the African Standby Force under the AU. Now, what is supposed to happen is that when there's crisis somewhere, these troops are to be launched, but then they're supposed to move in. There's the movements into Operation Theater are phased. So we first of all establish the task force. So the task force moves in. Like our intervention in Gambia, a few of us sat down to write the concept.
Wow.
Okay. And what happened was when we were going to move in, Nigeria made this substantial number of troops available, including logistics. So when you talk about ESF, you are talking about how many troops are available. Because some countries that you see, all of them are following our president up and down. Some of them, they only pledge logistic support. Some pledge medical. We went into an operation, where was this? In MINUSMA, I think. A country in Africa, in West Africa, brought 1 by 38 personnel. So what is that? That's just about a platoon. Where Nigeria is launching, in Sudan we had 4 battalions. In other, you have our troops all over the place in Africa. And so it's one thing for people to say, okay, we want to participate in this ESF, but then do you have the resources? Nigeria footed most of the bills in ECOMOG. We were all there. We gave trucks and vehicles to other countries who some came without even enough vehicles to participate in the operation. Nigeria provided all the vehicles. We even paying salaries of some countries. I don't want to mention those countries. So you find out that the weight, the burden, will need to be, borne by government. But then when you say they went to the Senate, that is also procedural, because when it comes to approving money, when it comes to approving the number of troops, when it comes to the level of logistics that is supposed to be given, even movement of all the maritime assets, our air assets.
A lot goes into it.
Yes, like we did in Gambia. We first of all moved to Senegal. Senegal already provided their own troops also, and they provided air assets also along with our Nigeria. So
thank you.
It was. It was okay there, and it was very well conducted.
Thank you very much indeed. Major General Anthony Atolagbe, Sector Commander, United Nations and Africa Union Mission in Darfur. A big thank you to you for coming on Newsnight tonight.
Thank you, sir.